Good morning, Anthony.
Good morning, Sonia.
Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. Anthony Webber, who is an independent political commentator and has been on Rise with us before. And Anthony, you came to me and it was very interesting what you had to say, because when you came on before, we talked about a petition before, didn't we?
Yes, that's right. And
give our viewers a reminder of that, please.
yes, well, we had a petition over 6 months ago to have a referendum on the government's policies on Ukraine and Russia. And what we found is it ostensibly shadow banned and ostensibly no platform by the media. And the consequence was it was virtually impossible because people actually didn't know the petition existed.
Right.
To give you an example of how the power of the mainstream media, there was a petition to call for a general election because of the economic performance of the government. And that's got 900,000 signatures, which is quite a good performance. But just as an example, on one day, after it was on GB News, it got 40,000 signatures. So if the media don't give the public the information, how are they going to know about these petitions? So it's a really uphill struggle. And I've been involved with a number of freedom issue petitions, which have managed to get over the 100,000. And it's been very, very difficult.
It is hard work.
Yes. Anyway, what happened with the previous petition, we did actually uniquely get 2 government responses on it. And the reason for the second one is even the petitions committee acknowledged that the government had evaded the prayer of the petition. So we do make progress with these things, but the previous petition actually was out of date with the wording within a month of it being launched, because as we've noticed, the government's policy on Ukraine and Russia has been by stealth. Started in a small way, and now we're virtually at war in all but name with Russia, which is with nil mandate for the British public.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, one of the reasons I wanted you to come back on, Anthony, is because I believe that what you're saying absolutely speaks for the British public right now. When I have run polls and various things on Twitter about our engagement in this proxy war, people have been resounding, no, I don't want my money spent there. This has to stop. We need more accountability. So I do truly believe that what you're saying is representative of the vast majority of people in our country. So there's no reason why you shouldn't be getting some airtime on GB News or wherever, but that's not happening. So that has to suggest to me that they want to, these news outlets want to continue what's going on with Ukraine.
Yes, I think that's very unfortunate. And to qualify what you said, we've sent out about 200 press releases to various media and got absolutely nowhere.
Oh, that's a decent press shot as well, 200.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
And we would carry on doing that. But the key thing is people like yourself giving airtime to the petition, because that's where it's very important, because somebody who's got a lot of followers, we've noticed in the past, that makes a significant difference. But we've got a few people sort of on the periphery of the freedom movement who are frightened to put their heads above the parapet. And we do know some people have actually been as good as threatened by the authorities or other media people to say, oh, you can't go down this road or your career is at stake. But going back to the main reason for the petition, you look at the rail strike, the government cut the tube and rail budgets by 4 billion, yet they spent 10 billion on Ukraine. And now they're going to spend, if these 50 tanks go ahead, that's going to be another $500 million, which is appalling, because Ukraine has got thousands of tanks already. And in this conflict, which is going on in eastern Ukraine at the moment, they're losing lots of top grade equipment, which they've already had supplied from various countries, including the UK. So we're just, the taxpayers are pouring money down a Ukraine black hole, but it's absolutely appalling. This was with nil mandate from the British public, but more to the point, the government has got blood on its hands because these weapons are used not just against the military, but civilians as well in eastern Ukraine, and hundreds of people have died and been injured. There's not a word said on the mainstream media about all these casualties.
Absolutely, absolutely, which is again why your petition is so vital. So tell us about the new petition, Anthony, and how we can support it.
Right. Well, the petition is different in that it's asking for the government to end its economically costly policies regarding the Ukraine, which was not so apparent at the time when we had the first petition. And you can't do the same petition again.
No.
You have 6 months and that's it. And sometimes the timing isn't right for when you actually launch a petition. But the key thing is, the government has wrecked the economy. It's resulted in huge inflation, which is the reason why virtually everyone in the public sector is asking for pay rises, because the government's policies have created inflation. And it's amazing, virtually every aspect of British life is affected by these policies of the government. And they say, oh, well, it's worth it because it's to defend freedom and democracy in Ukraine. They don't say that there isn't freedom and democracy in Ukraine. They've shut down the opposition media. Yes. And they shut down opposition parties.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. What did you take from Rishi Sunak, who of course is our Prime Minister, saying that he wanted an audit on what we were giving to Ukraine? Did you think that was legitimate?
I think it's likely to cover himself. But you know, he's obviously not taking much notice, because here we are with these tanks and continuance of you know, military aid on a grand scale. And what's appalling is these same politicians thought that we should be doing a deal with the Taliban to leave Afghanistan, letting down 26 million people with their human rights, education rights for women and everything else. That was all right to deal with the devil, but you know, they're saying to the Ukraine government, don't deal with Russia, don't have a peace deal. And this all goes back to when Boris Johnson went to Ukraine in April. They were about to sign a peace deal.
Right.
And so we could have saved literally thousands of lives on both sides if we'd gone ahead with this peace deal. But I think one of the key things with all this conflict is it's not just what is in British interest, because there's no British interest whatsoever in being involved in Ukraine.
No.
It's the world interest, the international interest, which
yes.
of course is totally different to globalist interests. Now what we've got is we've got a humanitarian crisis in the sense that we've got 8 million refugees, which wouldn't have come about if we'd had this peace deal. Ironically, the media keeps quiet about the fact that 2.9 million of these refugees are actually in Russia. But the problem is the refugees in the UK alone, it's about 144,000, they're costing 1.5 billion per annum, and that's actually rising. So because of our policies in respect of Russia and Ukraine, and these sanctions which work against us rather than Russia, we're in an economically terrible situation. But the world is suffering a little bit because of the sanctions of some Western countries.
Right.
So it's not in the world's interest to have a flood of extra refugees, to have this warmongering going on. But the interesting thing we're not told by the government is the majority of the world is not sanctioning Russia.
Right.
And those countries which don't sanction Russia are in a far better economic position. So
absolutely. What I found interesting was you said the main point about this petition is not to take sides, precisely not to take sides, but to facilitate a free debate so that voters can decide by referendum on this issue. That sounds fair and fine to me. Why? I don't know why you're getting obstacles, but what I will do, just to say, Anthony, I'll make sure to put a link to your petition in our description. Everybody, there's a sort of down arrow. If you click the down arrow, it will be on that, just by the title. But yeah, tell us a little bit more, Anthony, about why we should be signing this.
Well, we should be signing it because it's a major issue of freedom and democracy. Because if we felt it was important to have a referendum on the EU, this is a far greater consequence, actually.
Absolutely.
So therefore, if we could have one on the EU, we can certainly have one on this major issue. If we don't have one, then what's the point of democracy? If the Conservative and Labour and the parties can get elected with no mandate on these policies and carry on, doing policies which they weren't elected on, then what is actually the point of having elections? So we do have this facility in the British Constitution where we can ask for referenda, and it is a cross-party issue. And therefore, it should be a normal right to have a say on this. But more also to the point on this is the authorities are shutting down debate on the issue.
Absolutely.
And a referendum does bring about debate.
Yes.
And once you have debate, the government hasn't got a leg to stand on. They've got no argument whatsoever.
They can't win this. They can't win this. Once it gets out into the public domain properly and away from, the sort of dewy-eyed, misty rhetoric that we hear, then there's I truly believe that the British public will be on the side of your petition, Anthony. I mean, no doubt about it.
Well, as you know, we've been fed for months with propaganda promoting the Zelensky regime's point of view in Ukraine. Any other point of view in Ukraine is not allowed. And of course, there's a lot of opposition in Ukraine. Do you think mothers and fathers, want their sons to be dying like flies,
exactly,
which they are at the moment? And I saw one comment the other day that the young manhood of Ukraine is being slaughtered, and they're getting no choice on it. They're having forced conscription, and it's absolutely appalling that there's no accountability, democracy on this, and we're just given one point of view.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Completely agree with you, Anthony, and fully support what you're doing. We will push that petition. As I say, everybody, down arrow, check it out, click on that link, and please sign.
Thank you.
What Anthony is saying is absolutely spot on. You have my full support, Anthony. Always welcome back on Rise to update us. Let's hope we can get some more for this one.
Can I just suggest everyone reads the full wording of the petition, because it covers so many issues which are affected by these government policies. And I think also, please, let's attack the Prime Minister for what he's doing, because to be quite frank, the way things are going in Ukraine at the moment is all going to backfire on the government. And it wouldn't actually surprise me if Rishi Sunak has to resign, because he's going to have to take the flak for all of this. And of course, Boris Johnson is apparently about to go to Ukraine just after having been given £1 million donation. Boris Johnson is the one who's put the country in this absolute mess.
He set up a Ukraine Foundation with an office in Westminster. Absolutely outrageous. I have to let you go, which is always a pity. Everybody, Anthony Webber, political commentator and a regular on Rise, and we appreciate him very much. Take good care of yourself, Anthony. Thank you.
Thank you, Sonia. All the best.
You too. Really important what he's saying. Let's sign that petition in droves. Let's do it.